Hi there everybody, David Chafe back with you on Sunday, March the 22nd, 2020, back in my living room in what has become known as David Chafe's Living Room Recitals. Thank you all for your very generous comments. Every day I wake up to another round of emails from somebody new, and it's just really wonderful for me to know that this music and these videos are reaching you in some way. So thanks for taking the time to get back to me. So the premise of this video series, as you probably all know by now, is that each day for about a week and a half I will upload, just straight live from my living room right here, a track from my latest album, Still, which consists of 11 solo piano pieces, almost all of them from the Romantic period of classical music or of composition. So that would be Mendelssohn, Chopin, Grieg, Brahms, Rachmaninoff, and numerous others. Romantic period would be generally the late 19th, very early 20th century. So that's an important concept, and so is the fact that today is Sunday, because the fourth piece on the album, coinciding with today, was selected for the album with a very strong Sunday connection. And here's what I mean by that. So the album, as I explained, I think in the first video, represents music that I've learned over my life in music, from when I started in Kiwanis festivals when I was a young teenager up to this past year. So I was searching for a new piece to learn, something within my grasp, something simple and listenable, but that would also be in keeping with the style of the music that I had learned previously. And it occurred to me somewhere along the way that the music of this album comes from a period that also coincides with the emergence of popular music from the UK and from the US. And on Sundays in my house, growing up, I would go to the piano after every Sunday dinner, which would be usually a big feed, and my grandparents would come over. And after dinner, I'd go to the piano and play for my grandparents, mostly, pop music, or their equivalent of pop music, from their era. So if you're going back, I'm dating myself a bit here, but if we go back to the 70s, which is when this would all be happening, music from their era would be from the 1920s, and maybe even a little bit before then. In fact, here is, just happen to have a photo here of my grandfather on my mother's side. So this is her father, Thomas Albert Cook, and he would be seated just like that. That's a very familiar pose to me. This would be about 4 or 5 feet away from the piano, and he would just wait after dinner. He'd have his cocktail nearby, and he'd just wait for me to play a few tunes. So the tunes I'd play would be, he was a big Bing Crosby fan. So here's one, Where the Blue of the Night Meets the Gold of the Day, just a couple of verses or lines of that. Go on, and when the song was over, he would say, that was a good one. And then I would go into the next song and say, okay, well, I'd go through the book, which I'll tell you about in a second, and I'd find another song from that era. Let's see, oh yeah, here's another one. Girl of My Dreams. This goes back to the early 20s, I think. Here's the chorus. After that, he would say, that was a good one. And oh, and this one too was also on my Sunday playlist. I'll Take You Home Again, Kathleen. And so on. So all music from a period of time when he would have been himself a teenager or young married man. So, and by the way, they came from a book. They came from actually this book. That I played from actually back at that time. So I was happy to find it just this past weekend at the bottom on Bookstacks in practically mint condition. This very book, which I hadn't opened for decades until this weekend, was constantly on my piano book rest growing up, playing for them. So in searching for a new song to put on this album in keeping with the Romantic style, I was also searching for something that would be representative of both styles, that would be a classical piece or a Romantic era piece by a well-known Romantic composer, but that would evoke this kind of parlor song style of music as well. And I found one from a composer I wasn't familiar with before the album, named Moszkowski. And he wrote an obscure little piece, but an exquisite, really beautiful, short little work called Romance, or Romanza. And I think it's one, I have not been able to find any professional recordings of it, but I think it's one of three movements, the first of three movements of a larger work. So I just chose the first movement of this piece, and I hope you enjoy it. And it's certainly, I think you'll hear, given the excerpts that I just played for you from the book I played for my grandfather, that it is evocative of both classical music and romantic music as well. So this is Romanze by Morons, Moszkowski, the fourth track on the album. And with that, I hope you had a good weekend. You're having a good Sunday. I'll see you back here again tomorrow with the 5th edition of my Living Room Recitals. Thanks for tuning in.